Morgan has sent his apologies, but we've got Claire Miguel here as his substitute, and we're joined by Bev Hendricks online. I don't think there's any further apologies. No, okay. So we move on to declarations of pecuniary interest. No. Okay, minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any amendments or are they agreed? Thank you. And we'll go to the first item, which is the VORG strategy 2026 to 2029. Councillor Macaulay.
Right. Preventing and responding to the violence against women and girls remains a priority in Martin's Community Safety Partnership. Obviously, this strategy sets out our partnership commitment to work together to prevent all forms of violence against women and girls, including domestic abuse in Martin. The strategy has been drafted in partnership with the VOG Strategic Board, which oversights from the Community Safety Partnership, and also a 6 weeks consultation took place, and all the feedback has been incorporated into the draft strategy. The engagement was also carried out with survivors and also a range of professionals to ensure their insights and experiences were incorporated into the strategy. And the intention is to formally launch the strategy at the end of January 2026, and also the accompanying partnership action plan to oversight the strategic board, which will monitor the progress and delivery. In addition to that, as you know, I don't know if many of you know that the government is also launching the 2025-30 violence against women and girls later this week, and it is going to deploy the largest crackdown of violence perpetrated against women and girls in British history. So we got to watch out with our strategy, and also with the one the government, the Home Secretary announced it yesterday. So watch this space. Thank you. I don't know if Caroline wants to add anything to it.
Okay, brilliant. So we'll open up to comments and questions. Councillor Stringer.
Thank you very much. Really interested to see this, having previously another role have responsibility for this, and know just how much work goes into developing these strategies. I'm very excited to see what comes from the national strategy, as I say, later on this week, and I hope that will help us do everything we can to keep women and girls safe. But in terms of developing this strategy, what you talked a bit there about the board involvement. What stakeholders were involved, and how did that look?
Yeah. Developing the strategy, what we did was we took the views of survivors, as I mentioned, professionals, and also for people who work in the field, and also residents, views, to ensure that we hear the views of the response that we had from our community, which is really good. Also, the community safety team attended numerous community engagement and events with residents, and also to promote and share consultations to encourage what they have said in their views to formulate this strategy. The consultation have also been shared with so many people, professionals and other top people, adults and social children, to save and also safeguarding children, to ensure that we promote this strategy, and we haven't done it in the way we feel that is beneficial to us. The VOG board has also made sure that we have taken into account the 60 people who responded to the consultation in terms of what they have raised and how we could, look into what can be considered into the strategy. So it was a very good response, and everyone was consulted, as we knew, we had to do something to end violence against women and girls.
Councillor Cooper-Mavia.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Macaulay, for the report and the explanation you've given. it is widely recognized, though, that individuals from minority backgrounds are often less likely to speak out about violence that they experienced. I'm just wondering, how will this strategy encourage, empower, and support those communities to come forward and speak out? Thank you.
Councillor Kamabea. We understand, that survivors from ethnic minority background, they are less likely to speak about violence against women and girls, and so what they have experienced, we try to, to engage them with our communities so that they can come forward to access services and ensure that they receive the most appropriate support to overcome any barriers to accessing our services. And also, this includes working with Pan London specialist services and to ensure that support is given to victims' need. Also, some of them need specialist support, which means that they have to have help in terms of housing, immigration, and other services that is provided. We also work with victim support, as we know that in terms of when cases are brought to the magistrates court, it's very difficult for them to give evidence because ethnic minority people are normally afraid to speak against their partners. So we usually, make an application so that we can get them a screen so that the evidence that they're giving their partners is not there to listen to what has been happening. And also, just I think 2 years ago, the Home Secretary, who was in the previous government, made a statement that any domestic abuse cases which are brought to court, if ethnic minorities have started the matter, they cannot pull out. The case has to be heard in court.
Thank you. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Macaulay. I've got a question, which is, how will the strategy work to change attitudes and behaviours relating to violence against women and girls, particularly in relation to boys and young men?
Right. I think the council, we recognise the importance of engaging men and boys, preventing violence against women and girls. The council has also funded projects designed to challenge harmful gender-based positive masculinity across the communities. We've also commissioned Voice Box, which we have been working for the last few months in the borough, and also providing healthy masculinity workshop. We've done quite a few of these workshops in the borough and also in the Phipps-Bridge area. The Voice Box have also produced a toolkit, which we support the work of young people. And we had a session quite recently in 2 parts of the borough where it was very, very successful. And also the priority in changing attitudes and behavior. And this was included in the draft strategy of what we got from the masculinity program that we launched, and also the toolkit, which was widely successful. And I think it was a good thing that we included it in the strategy, and it was important for us to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay. Councillor Judge.
Chair, if you'll excuse me raising an issue with Caroline, and it was in relation to particular things that I was involved in the past, and it was a terrible murder of a young woman in Mitcham called Banaz Mahmood, and I chaired the partner review into that murder, which was most unsatisfactory. In the report, page 20, it states properly that we're committed to strengthening partnership working so that violence against women and girls is recognised as everyone's responsibility, and our collective response is coordinated, consistent and robust. Now, Banaz Mahmood have made it very clear on a number of occasions that her life was endangered by her family, and particular agencies in the borough, particularly the police, at that time in the noughties and the early noughties did not take effective action. In my view, they had severe responsibility through their neglect and incompetence for the murder that took place, and they wouldn't sign up to a report that even considered what responsibility there was. And I'd be grateful to know whether things are now better and whether the police in particular are now on side in close partnership working on such issues where you've got young women who are in such a vulnerable condition.
Thank you, Councillor Judge. It's a really important question. I've seen a number of domestic homicide review reports since I've been at Merton, most recently into the death of a young woman called Annabelle in 2021, which was a dreadful situation after many years of abuse in actually different relationships. I can confirm that that was a very robust report with lots of learning for all agencies, including the council. So I'm satisfied we've got a robust approach. We've recently had another situation which is just going through the decision making for a domestic homicide review or not. As you know, there's very stringent criteria for that, and we're just reviewing that one. That looks as though it's not likely to be a DHR, but likely to be another form of review. But I'm very satisfied that the 2021 report, which had lots of involvement from lots of partners and lots of council colleagues, was robust and did the job it was supposed to. But we do need to keep an eye out for that for the whole time, so that we're all looking at things with open eyes and with learning eyes as well. Really important that we do learn from the past. But thank you for the question.
Thank you, Caroline. Any further comments or questions? No? Brilliant. I'd just like to thank the efforts that have gone into writing this really important document, whether it's through the voice of the residents, survivors, partner organisations, and our team here at Merton. I think it's a really good strategy, and one that I know from knowing the determination not just of the cabinet member but also the officers involved, that this is a strategy that they will be taking seriously and enacting and ensuring that recommendations do come to fruition, and that we continually keep our eye on the ball. Of course, you may.
Just one final thing that I should probably have said earlier. The report, the strategy sets out that it's about 12% of reported crime is domestic abuse, and then there are several hundred, 450 incidents of sexual offences on top of that. We must remember, and I know we all do, that domestic abuse often takes place in a home where children are present, and safeguarding for those children is a really important part of getting the violence against women and girls strategy right, because so many children are clearly affected by it. So I just thought it's worth mentioning that. I should have said that earlier. Apologies, Leader.
No, absolutely, really important point.
Just finally, I would just mention that because of the, as what Caroline has said, I don't know if you're all aware, because in the courts now, the government, this is for the last 10 years, they have special domestic courts, and it's always on a Thursday. I chair the court, but I've stopped chairing because of my portfolio, because I have a conflict of interest, so I don't anymore. So it is important for you all to know that the government, both governments before and the new government, have a special domestic courts every Thursday because of what is happening to women and girls. Thank you.
Okay, Cabinet, we're being asked to approve Merton's new violence against women and girls strategy. That's recommendation A. Is that agreed? Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on now to the next item. If you bear with me 1 second, which is agenda item 5, and that's the Council Tax Support Scheme 2026 to 2027. Councillor Alan Brittis.
Thank you. It's famously
quote from Shakespeare, to be or not to be, but in 2012, the question asked of us was whether to absorb or passport, whether to absorb a cut by the then Conservative government to localise council tax benefit, or whether we passport it onto our residents. And we took the decision to absorb it, and we've absorbed that nasty little cut by the Tories ever since, proudly on behalf of our households on low incomes. So this report comes to us each year, to the Cabinet, and then moves to full council. And we do all we can to make sure that we represent and support those on low incomes. We consult with residents, we consult with the GLA, and we do our level best. So I'd like to hand over to the officer if he wants to add anything. Assad, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, just very briefly. So this does maintain the principle of the maximum 100% council tax support scheme for the lowest income households, and the local scheme for working age residents will stay in alignment with the prescribed scheme for pensioners.
Colleagues, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Councillor Brittas, for your detailed report, and it is very, very positive about the council tax. But how does the council ensure that the annual revisions to council tax support continue to protect low-income household and our vulnerable families?
Borden. So year in, year out, when we talk about council tax support, when we consult about council tax support, it is embedded that it is in order to maintain low council tax charges for those on lower incomes. It's actually embedded in our psyche and in everything that we do, and that's exactly the recommendation you're being asked to approve, that this is all in order to maintain low council tax charges for those who can ill afford.
Councillor Neveson.
Thank you very, very much, Councillor Brittas, for that report. And it's definitely one of the things that I'm most proud of being part of this council, is the work that we do to protect low income and vulnerable households. And this is one of the fantastic pillars of that. But could you tell me a bit more about how the support compares to other London councils?
This was first introduced in 2013. There are about 9 or 10 councils who were courageously providing 100% council tax support. So if I refer you to item 6.3, page 51, and the bold statement there for Councillor Neveson is this is the most generous type of council scheme available to award council tax support.
Thank you. There appears to be no further questions or comments. So we're being asked to agree option 1 for updating for the 26-27 council tax support scheme as detailed in the report as recommendation A. Is that agreed? Thank you. So we'll now move on to the next item, which is item 6, 2026-2027 fees and charges report. I'd just like to remind colleagues that there is an exempt paper as well. If anybody would like to discuss or talk about any items in the exempt paper, please do let me know so that we can hold a private session, an exempt session for that. The reason that those items, which is a number of fees and charges which are exempt, is due to the commercial sensitivities involved. Councillor Alan Brittas.
Yes, thank you. And so the main template of our work on fees and charges is the inflationary increase across the board, except for some exceptional cases. So I'll hand over to Assad to go through the report for us, but it is all about inflationary increases.
Thank you. So just set out that it's the annual review of fees and charges. Significant focus is on full cost recovery to ensure that the charges do remain in line with increases being experienced in the cost of delivering those services. The application of fees and charges does play an important role in supporting the council to achieve its strategic priorities by providing a source of funding for reinvestment in our services. And the purpose of this report is to outline the current fees and charges applied by the council and seeks Cabinet's agreement to those proposed revised fees in respect of those services that are executive functions, and to note the others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions, Councillor Kawesa.
Thank you very much, Leader. And I would also like to thank the Cabinet member and Exec Director for taking us through the report. I would just like to follow up on a comment by the Exec Director. It would be great if you could further elaborate on how the application of these fees and charges play a role in supporting the council to achieve its strategic priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So, of course, so where we do levy fees and charges, it's really important that the cost of delivering those services are contained within those fees and charges, and that helps protect not only the cost of delivery of those services, but where there is income to invest into the front line in lines of our services, and it's a really important source of income to help deliver those really crucial roles that the council plays in Merton.
Thank you, Councillor Judge.
Brief questions, if I may. First of all, if this review, whether this review is in line with the approach we used in previous years. And secondly, how do we ensure cost recovery across all the discretionary services? Thank you.
I'll take the first question, and then if you come on the second aspect. So with regard to the first question, if I refer people to page 80, 2.4, and that is the starting principle that all charges adopt an inflationary increase, and that is the case, and that's what we do year in, year out. Over to Asad.
Yeah, in terms of cost recovery, it's really important that the work we do with services around identifying the total cost of delivery of those services from the frontline staff who deliver those services to all the back office support. So it's a real big piece of work that we bring to council annually to show exactly where that work is.
Okay,
and how we're charging.
thank you. Okay. All right, there's no further speakers indicating, so Cabinet would be asked to agree recommendations A and B. Are they agreed? Thank you. So we'll move to agenda item 7, which is the 2025 to 2026 Treasury Management Strategy Mid-Year Review. Councillor Alan Brittis.
2 points from me before I pass over to Asad. So every local authority in this country is required to have this strategy, Treasury Management Strategy, outlines our Treasury activities, our operational limits, the capital financing plans, and this goes to the full council. What is reassuring is that this report has been written in accordance with the requirements of the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and the Accountancy's Code of Practice on Treasury Management. You mentioned SIPFA in any local authority. Huge respect. Over to Asad.
Thank you, Councillor. So yeah, this is the mid-year report. It does highlight our Treasury activities over the first 6 months of this financial year, alongside broader economic and political developments that have influenced our council's investments, borrowing decisions, and investment income. So one development to particularly note is the authorities now taking the opportunity to do peer-to-peer lending with other local authorities at rates which are higher due to the comparatively high rates of PWLB borrowing. So we have loaned up until this period £15 million to other local authorities, with another 3 being placed in the latter half of this year. So we are taking advantage of higher interest rates that are currently prevailing, and we are getting the benefit of that in our investment activities. So we are seeing a good return this year, as well as carrying a low level of debt, which is making the financing charges relatively low for an authority of our size. So a pleasing update for mid-year. Thank you.
Very welcome news. Councillor Alan Brittis.
Say how proud I am that under your leadership, Leader, we're in a position to lend to giants like Leeds City Council and Manchester City Council. We're lending money to Andy Burnham. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Alan Brittas. Are there any comments on the Treasury Management Strategy mid-year review or questions? No, I think that's a ringing endorsement. We're being asked to agree recommendations A. Is that agreed? Thank you very much. And that concludes business for our final Cabinet meeting of the year. So I'd like to wish everybody a very restful, but also very merry Christmas and look forward to the next Cabinet meeting.